Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we got more annoying Pokemon, honestly. Because yesterday, I showed you Mandibuzz, and I told you about how that lets you, once per turn, look at your opponent's hand and bench one of their Pokemon with an HP of 70 or less. That one works from anywhere on the field. Well, today, we've got Gothitelle. And Gothitelle only works if you're in the active. That's a little bit annoying. But I think it's going to be okay, because this is a pretty good ability. Now, we have the pre-evolutions here as well. Gothitelle got single energy, and you look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, and you can put them back on top of the deck in any order you like. It's fine. It's alright. It's not great, it's not terrible. If you're in a bit of a pinch and you need to hurt your opponent, fine. But oh, ladies and gentlemen, the ability here on Gothitelle makes me happy. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may have your opponent shuffle the hand into their deck and draw 3 cards. You can force your opponent to shuffle draw 3 every single turn. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yes. This is one that makes me very, very happy indeed. Because essentially what we're doing here is we're just going after our opponent's hand. And the thing is, you use this, and then next turn your opponent builds up a big hand. You're like, oh, cool. You built up a big hand. That's lovely. Now get rid of it again. And now get rid of it again. Now get rid of it again. And round and round and round and round and round and round and we go. I adore this. Basically, we're using this here to just hurt your opponent turn after turn after turn. Now, 2 very important points about this. Number 1, this is once per turn. You can literally do this every single turn. That's a good thing. Number 2, this only works if you're in the active. It's not ideal. I'll be honest with you. It's not entirely ideal. So there's your trade-off. On the one hand, yes, it's an every turn kind of thing. Wonderful. On the other hand, it is only if you're in the active, so you've got to actually go and use this over and over again from the active spot to go and hurt your opponent. Is that the end of the world? No! But it is important to note that, it's not perfect. Now, obviously, what you really want to do here is go further. So you get your opponent down to 3 cards in hand. That's good. What more can we do? Well, what more we can do here is play around with something like Eri, for instance. Eri lets you look at your opponent's hand, and then you get to get rid of a couple of item cards. Now, there's a couple of fun things Eri does. Firstly, gets rid of item cards. That's a good thing. But secondly, it is also kind of fun because you then get that information of exactly what you want. Now, here's the other thing you can do. If you want to get kind of super annoying and tricksy here, you can actually play around with this with Relicanth. And here's what you do, right? You get your Gothitelle, and you put your opponent down to a 3-card hand. You then play something like Eri, and your opponent shows you their hand. You get to discard a couple of item cards. Hopefully at this point, your opponent's not got much to play with. That's the goal here. You want your opponent to have very little rolling. And if their hand is dead, if they've got nothing in their hand, that's when you use Relicanth. Because Relicanth lets you use the attacks of your previous evolutions, like, for instance, Gothitelle. And once you're using Gothitelle here, you can then just rearrange the top cards of your opponent's deck to basically make sure they don't draw into anything. Now, I mean, eventually you're going to have to let them draw into something, but what you do here is, in theory, you look at the top 5 cards of their deck and you go, right, well, I've seen your hand. I now know you're not drawing anything for the next 2 turns. That gives me 2 turns where I can attack. And then I will use Relicanth to copy Gothitelle again, and hopefully buy myself more turns. If you know what's in your opponent's hand, and again, assuming they've got nothing to get out of it, and you then know what they're going to be drawing, and with Gothitelle, you can know what they're going to be drawing, you can know exactly what the deal is. You can have all the information you need to make sure that you can stop your opponent's plans. And if you do this properly, there's no surprise. There's no getting out of this. There's no, well, hang on a second. What? No, they're not going to draw out of it. That's the entire point. They can't draw out of it because you know what they're drawing and you know they're not going to draw out of it. And again, the theory here is you use Gothitelle's attack. You don't use Gothitelle. Use Relicanth to copy it. You know exactly how many turns until they would draw out of it. And then right before they would draw out of it, that is when you then drop your Gothitelle and you roll. As in, you attack with Gothitelle. Oh, this could be fun. Well, okay. This could be fun for you. This could actually be super annoying for your opponent. This could be something that actually really, really hurts. But that's what you're doing here. It's a shuffle draw free. You don't really want to do... don't get me wrong. Shuffle draw free is going to win you a bunch of games, right? There will be a bunch of games where you make your opponent shuffle draw free. They draw nothing, and you go and win the game. Think back to Marshadow. Think of how great Marshadow was. Marshadow was brilliant because you just played it and then you made your opponent shuffle draw 4. I mean, you shuffle drawed 4 as well, but you kind of knew what was coming, so you didn't mind. But you made your opponent shuffle draw 4 and they didn't draw out of it and they lost the game. This is shuffle draw 3. So your goal here is basically just lock your opponent down using Gothitelle, using Gothitelle's attack, using stuff like Eri so that you can look at their hand and just have an awful lot of fun. There is also a fun thing you can do with Ortega here. Ortega, you look at your opponent's hand, you choose a card and put it to the bottom of their deck, and then your opponent draws a card if you do. Now, this in some ways is better than Eri because with a 3-card hand, there's a very good chance they're going to have 1 or fewer cards that draw out of it. So essentially what you do here is if they've got something like a supporter, something that's going to help them get out of it, you get rid of it, and then they draw a card and they might draw out of it with that 1 card and you won't necessarily know, and that's annoying. But if they don't draw out of it, then you know they've got nothing. You've gotten rid of that 1 card that would have helped them, and then hopefully that 1 random draw hasn't got them out of it. Of course, I'm talking here about using Gothitelle as a stick it in the active and attack. So what is the attack? The attack's fine. It's 2 energy, you deal 90 damage, and if you got the same number of cards in hand as your opponent, then it actually deals an additional 90 damage. And this is kind of fun because that's a decent amount of damage. Essentially here, you can potentially use this to actually win the game in a few turns by saying to your opponent, I'm doing 180 per turn, and sure, 180 isn't phenomenal, but actually, I know you're not going to draw out of it for 2 or 3 turns, so I know I got time to do this. Now, there is another option here, and the other option is, instead of just using it as a Gothitelle deck and actually attacking, well, it's only got a retreat cost of 2 when Air Balloon's getting reprinted in Black Bolt and White Flare. So the other option here is, rather than using it as a straight Gothitelle deck, what you actually do instead is just play Gothitelle with anything and Air Balloon, and then whenever you get a chance, Gothitelle goes in the active, use the ability, free retreat with Air Balloon, and then carry on with whatever else you would have been doing. That is also an option. I don't love playing tech stage 2 lines for pretty obvious reasons. It can make your deck very clunky, but I also think that there will absolutely be decks that are going to play this to give you a random shuffle draw free and then kind of laugh a little bit, which is fun. Oh, also, this might be a good time to tell you about the other Gothitelle from Paldea Evolved, which has yet to rotate out. Now, whenever I tell you about a new Stage 2, I like to go, well, here are the other ones you could combine with it if you want. Let me be clear, you want to. Because this has an ability whereby, once during your turn you may look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, put one of them back, and put the other card on the bottom of their deck. Yeah. So I like being able to use Gothitelle here and being able to rearrange the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, know what's coming for the next couple of turns. But once you've got that rolling, you could, instead of as well whatever, just use this Gothitelle. And then what you can do is just look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck every turn and put one of them back. One of the reasons I like using Relicanth here is because if I get one stage 2 Gothitelle, basic Relicanth, and I can then hurt my opponent and slow them down. Yes, once you've got your regular Gothitelle in the active and then this Gothitelle on the bench, you can essentially make your opponent shuffle draw free and then immediately just start controlling their top decks. The problem there is you need 2 different Gothitelle in play at the same time. You need to evolve both lines up. And yes, you'll be able to. But the reason I like the Relicanth Gothitelle so much is because it's a very simple, I get a single Gothitelle out, I bench 1 basic Pokemon, and then I've got a single energy attack which allows me to essentially manipulate my opponent's deck. After I've used this ability, it is an immediate thing. I don't want to have to rely on getting both Gothitelle out. Although, just to be perfectly clear, I'm playing both Gothitelle, and I definitely want to get both Gothitelle out. And obviously here, I'm sure you've already figured it out, but let me say it out loud. Grand Tree is your ace spec. Get your stage 2 rolling. It's lovely. I'm going to go ahead and give this one 4 Wassies. I think this is going to make people absolutely hate it. But the reality is, if you can get this Gothitelle rolling with either Gothitelle's attack or the other Gothitelle, and you are putting them down to a 3-card hand and then controlling their top decks, you will literally lock your opponent out of the game, and then your attack will be fine and you'll win. Also, side note, there will also be times where you use the Pare Revolve Gothitelle. You look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck and they're both useful. That is situations where you can put one of them on the bottom, but then you know there's a useful card left there, so you can then use Gothitelle's attack to make sure they don't draw anything. Gothitelle being able to look at 5 rather than 2 gives you more certainty that your opponent will not draw out of that terrible 3-card hand you gave them. There we go. This could be fun and super annoying. So let me know in the comment section what you think, would you? Get us! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like the lovely Star of Dav, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.